Well, greetings and welcome. Take two with Jerry and Debbie, and you getting underway on EWTN Radio. I am Jerry Usher, along with Debbie Georgiani and the show team, Ace, Jeff, Matt. They are all in place. And we're going to be talking about, what are we going to be talking about today? Well, we're going to be talking about marriage. But Debbie Georgiani, you're married. I am not. But those of our listeners who are married in the Take Two family, they know very, very well that it is not always the smoothest ride. Sometimes there are some disagreements, some arguments, and even outright fighting within marriages. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Well, that's the question we are asking our Take Two family before we go into the Memorial Day weekend. Is fighting okay in a marriage? That's the question we're asking. And if you have certain techniques like on conflict resolution principles and techniques and styles and like Jerry said, if there's disagreements versus actual all-out fighting or arguing or debates or conversations, maybe some heated conversations, however you want to term it, do you think it's okay? And can it be productive, and can it be done well with dignity and respect? That's the question we're asking today. Could you weigh in on it? Please, you don't have to be Catholic to call in, but please do call in, because we'd like to have a very, very robust discussion before going into the weekend. Because let's face it, folks, it is a holiday weekend. There's going to be a lot of traveling, maybe some parties, some barbecues, some alcohol. That's always sometimes part of the Memorial Day weekend celebration. And with that can come some fights can start. So we want to really talk about it ahead of time, weave it into our spirituality, and we need your help. Here's the number, 833-288-3986.
Well, those of us who have kind of a music background, my initial start in radio was as a disc jockey. Ace McCare, producer, very much into music as well. You'll remember the song by the Stylistics, Break Up to Make Up. That's all we do. And we'd love to hear from you. Tell us how you come out of a disagreement, an argument, a fight with your spouse even stronger, even closer together, because that's really what this life of a marriage is, of course, supposed to be all about, is to the two become one flesh, and you're supposed to be united in as many, hopefully everything that you possibly can be. But these moments do arise, and so we want to know if you have any techniques, like Debbie said, any ways of getting resolution when there are fights in the marriage and so forth. So again, the number is 833-288-EWTN, 833-288-3986.
The last thing we want to do if there is an argument is to leave things unresolved, and then where resentment builds up, okay? Because that's how it breaks down the relationship. So if you could talk about that as well, that would help us, 833-288-3986. But please weigh in on this. We truly count on you to share your wisdom, your lived experience. You don't have to out anybody. You don't have to out your spouse or talk about something that is very private to you and your spouse. But maybe you could give your confirmation name, and you can just share some of the aspects, the scenarios or the details, so that we can learn and grow from it. We're not trying to be nosy in your life. We're trying to learn and grow. But Jerry, I wanted to share this real quickly. Jerry, we constantly offer for the Take Two family who's listening, free consultations at standtalltoday.com. That's standtalltoday.com. We have a life coaching ministry. And I just wanted to say this. We're receiving some emails from our Take Two family, and you guys are kind of giving us the details of something, and you want some coaching. We would suggest you get a free consultation. Why do we say that? For a couple reasons. We want to make sure that you have that dedicated time that we can respond. You can pick the coach you want to talk with, and you'll have that time to really share your story person to person by phone rather than by email, because it's a lot harder to respond with coaching in an email. It's better if you can talk on the phone. So get your free consultation at standtalltoday.com.
All right, and join those who are calling in right now, 833 288-3986. Is fighting okay in a marriage? If it is, well, it's going to come up probably anyway. So how do you get through that? Do you feel closer to your spouse afterward? Maybe you're going through a kind of a conflict right now. As Debbie said, don't need to give full details, your name. You can use your confirmation name or pick a name. But we're going to learn a lot, and I really believe, we always say, what you share on this show is helping a lot of people right now. And let's face it, conflicts do arise within marriages, really in all relationships. I've heard it said that when you get two people under the same roof, you're going to have disagreements and conflicts and fights and arguments. So 833-288-3986.
The only thing I would say, though, from a life coaching standpoint, is that when you use the word fight, okay, the first thing that comes to mind is there has to be a winner and a loser. Okay, and that's the last thing you want in a relationship. Okay, you need to create these win-win situations in really all our relationships around us, with our kids, with our coworkers, because when you have a winner and then you have a loser, somebody actually is beaten down, and usually something has chipped away in them, because it's not a good, and there's usually always a way you can have a win-win situation, but you have to dedicate the time to it. You have to be concerned about the other person's respect and dignity, and so all that has to be factors that play into having a really important heated conversation, right, Jerry? I mean, when you say that, that's key to keeping the relationship, is to really respect each other.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, everyone has dignity, inherent worth, and we're all created equal in the image and likeness of God. And so I like the way you state that. There shouldn't be a winner and a loser, because then it's sort of one has the upper hand, and like you said, one is kind of feels beaten down. And if there's enough of that in a marriage, I would guess that it's probably going to take a very serious toll.
Yep.
So share with us your thoughts on this, arguing within a marriage, how you get through those things. Have you ever come away feeling like so much closer to your spouse and really grateful that it was an unfortunate situation, but you managed to weather it and get through that, and now you're stronger and more in love with each other than ever before? 833-288-3986.
And there's a really healthy way to say I'm sorry, and then there's a really unhealthy way to constantly say you're sorry just to avoid conflict. So I mean, there's everything we can talk about relationships, but we're asking the question, though, is fighting okay in a marriage? We want to hear from you. Please dial in. Don't get started with your Memorial Day weekend yet. Come on, you guys. Fill up those phone lines, 833-288-3986.
If you've never been to EWTN's free family celebration, this is your year. Your EWTN family is waiting for you where it all began in Birmingham, Alabama. Join us Saturday, August 26th as we celebrate Mother Angelica's love for the Eucharist and mark the centennial year of Mother's birth. For more information on this free event, visit EWTN.com/family celebration. We want to see you there.
EWTN is everywhere. EWTN radio programming is provided free of charge to over 500 domestic and international AM and FM radio stations. It's a great teaching tool for Catholics and non-Catholics alike. For a complete list of EWTN AM and FM stations across America, visit EWTNradio.net. At the bottom of the page, click Affiliates. EWTN, the Global Catholic Network.
Hi, I'm Ace McKay, your host for this week's Catholics Coast to Coast, where we like to spend time with some of the great podcasts, and we make it easy to find at Podcast Central when you go to EWTNradio.net. This week, we're wrapping up the month of Mary as Dare to Great is looking how Mary lived as a servant leader, and then Catholic Review Radio is going through the rules of discernment that are the patterns of how God inspires us. So join me for Catholics Coast to Coast, Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Talking today about, is it okay to fight, argue, disagree strongly, vehemently, all of different ways of putting this in a marriage. 833-288-3986. Please share your lived experience, because it's something really every married couple is going to experience at some point. You don't want it to be too serious, but there there are going to be these moments, and if you've managed to deal with those and weather them and maybe come out all the better and even stronger, please, you'll be helping a lot of people with your lived experience at 833 288 3986. Real quickly before we go to the phones, if you enjoy EWTN Bookmark Brief with Doug Keck, you can actually receive weekly emails, including a short video blog. It features the author giving a short synopsis of their work in his or her own words. Visit EWTN.com and click on subscribe to get the EWTN Bookmark Brief email.
Okay, there's room for you. Again, you do not have to be Catholic to call in. You'll speak to Michael McCall. He is fantastic to talk to. He's waiting, willing, and able to answer your call. He'll chat with you for a few minutes. You'll listen live, and then you can share the details of why you think fighting is okay or it's not okay in a marriage. We'd love to hear from you. 833-288-3986. Please call us and give us your best advice on this. Let's go to Rose in Boston, Massachusetts on the Station of the Cross. Hi, Rose.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I think it's a really important topic. I wanted to bring up the fact that I do think it's healthy to argue if you can figure out a way to do it in a healthy way, because I grew up in an environment where my parents did not argue in a healthy way, and they got defensive with each other, and they would put out the word divorce many times. So as a kid growing up, it was very scary to hear that. And it didn't matter that we had heard it 20 times before. It was still really scary. So when I got into relationships and then finally into my marriage, I didn't even know how to fight well, because I just was carrying that. Even though I knew it wasn't right, I didn't know what else to do. So luckily, my husband and I have been married almost 25 years, and he stuck with me through it all. and we, every argument, it's still something that doesn't come easily, I don't think, to anybody. But I think it's really important to try to be respectful of each other. And even when it's difficult to hear, I can think of one specific time when I didn't even realize I was doing it. But I in hindsight, I know I was just in a bad spot with work and emotions with other things that didn't even have to do with him. And he actually just came out and said to me, I don't know what's going on, but every single time you talk to me lately, you're belittling me.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know I was doing it. So it was hard, really hard to hear that, but it was important that he told me, because I then could take constructive measures to stop doing it and realize that I needed to kind of take control over my emotions.
Sure.
So I think it's really healthy to argue if you can learn how to argue well.
Well, a couple things you said I just want to comment on, Rose, because it was just brilliant. Thank you so much for leading this conversation and in such a great way about conflict resolution and what you experienced as a child. I experienced a similar thing growing up with my mom and dad not being able to fight well at all. Now, we always blamed it on they were both 100% Sicilian, so we just said, oh, that's the reason. But that's really not the reason. They didn't know how to really, deal with each other in a way that they both walked away, not feeling defensive and feeling at peace with it. They walked away with a lot of bitterness and resentment, which isn't good. So a couple things. When you talked about a healthy argument, you're spot on. It's this idea that we need to communicate in a way that we want, how we want to be treated, right? And a lot of times people will, especially couples, they'll have an argument and one will storm out of the room or leave the home, right? But we in life coaching, we always share with the couples, please, if you're frustrated, if you can't talk right now, if something's bothering you, if you're not ready to deal with something and you want to leave, you want to escape, you want to get out of there for 30 minutes, please tell your spouse Okay, say to your spouse, honey, I love you. I can't talk about this right now. I'm leaving for 30 minutes and I'm coming back. Okay, because that's what you're talking about, Rose, this idea of security in relationships. And I so agree with you. As to throw the divorce word out there so many times, I know maybe you and your siblings, Rose, didn't think it was going to happen, and me and my siblings, we didn't think. Who knows? We didn't know what we were thinking, but it still is painful because you have no security, and that's not good in a relationship. The whole idea of why people even go into an actual relationship is part of it for that trust and security and that safety net. So before we throw it to Jerry, any comments about what I shared, Rose?
I just think it really hit home to me about the not walking away, because that was what I knew, besides the fact that they would just argue, then they would just storm off. So that's inherently what I want to do, and sometimes I still do that, but I try not to. But I thank you so much for saying that, because that was a Holy Spirit moment, because I needed to hear that. I needed to hear this, to just, even if I can't control being able to walk away, because I can't, because sometimes you have to understand, right now I have to get my emotions in check, and I have to get my thoughts together. But to say that, like, I'm coming back and give it a time frame, and then give you both time to just calm,
right?
And I think it's much more constructive that way. So thank you so much for saying that.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, no, I'm so grateful to you and what you shared, because it really had me think about a few things that I deal with when working with clients. So yeah, Jerry.
Well, I can just add a couple things. I can make it a perfect 3 for 3 in terms of my parents, who didn't know how to argue or fight very well either. I just think humility is so very important. And part of that humility to me, and I have experience, of course, not in marriage, but in friendships with arguments and fights, you have to at some point be willing to absorb some emotional blows, if you will, without letting it get to you personally or taking offense at it. And I think that could be very, very disarming a lot of times. It's just, it can help to de-escalate the whole situation if you choose to just say, if somebody is like really on the offensive with you, you just don't leap to the offensive back at them, because that's not going to accomplish anything. So, but I mean, we don't want to be, doormats either, but I just think humility is very, very important. And I love what you said, Debbie, kind of the self-imposed time out, I'm going to take a little bit of time off. So
Right.
Those are some thoughts.
And what you just said, Jerry, just jogged my mind. And Rose, what do you think about this? Sometimes inserting a real genuine sense of humor, because we all know a humorous thing between our spouses, right? We know each other so well. And when you can interject something that is a bit humorous just to lighten up the mood a bit, you don't want to be sarcastic, not a sarcastic humor, but just something like that. It can really just calm it. I like how you said that, to de-escalate, to just calm everything down. What do you think, Rose, what Jerry said?
Yeah, I don't know that the humor would go over well, but the humility, absolutely. The humor, I'll try to have to work on with that one. But I don't know, in my marriage it would necessarily go well, but I'm sure for a lot of people it would. But the humility I could certainly take to heart.
Right.
Just being able to kind of take one for the team, per se.
Right, yeah. It's exactly what I was thinking about when I said that. So, yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Great call, Rose. You're awesome.
Thanks, Rose.
Thank you. Wow, that was fabulous.
Good start, yeah. 833-288-3986. A little bit of a deep and kind of sensitive topic today, but here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, we cover everything, every aspect of life as best we possibly can. And we're talking about, is it okay to fight, argue, disagree within a marriage? If so, do you set up ground rules ahead of time? Do you take that self-imposed time out? Do you practice humility and kind of absorb what the other one has to say? How have you come out stronger after such an incident in your marriage? 833-288-3986.
Okay, let's hear what Lynn has to say. And Lynn is in Albany, New York, listening on Pax et Bonum. Did I get that great? I have to check with Jerry, because he's the Latin expert. Jerry?
Yeah, that sounded great to me.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Lynn.
Well, thank you. This topic was interesting to me because I'm going through a situation right now that kind of really hit home with it. in this situation for me, my husband and I have been married 40 years, and of course, we disagree a lot. And sometimes I just totally ignore what he says and just do my own thing. So the situation came up, and it had to do with one of our grown daughters. And my husband specifically told me, whatever you do, don't offer to help her out. So those were the words he said to me, and I knew exactly what he was saying because we've been through this before. And so I didn't even say anything. I just heard what he said, and I knew what he meant. So then the next day I was talking to my daughter on the phone, and I wasn't going to bring up this particular issue, but she brought it up. And the next thing I hear myself saying to her is, oh, don't worry. Mom and Dad will take care of that for you. Because she was just going on. So, and as soon as I said that, I knew, but now I realized now what's happened is when I said that to my daughter, I realized, okay, I didn't say maybe we'll help, I said we will help you. So now she's expecting that I'm going to follow through with this,
Right.
And my husband is like, no. And that whole incident just caused me to really kind of stop and reflect on, okay, what are you doing? It's like you can't keep doing this. It's like most of the time, like if we have some kind of disagreement and I just do what I don't always respect him, but it doesn't have any bad it's like, all right, he'll get over it or we'll get over it. But this has made me realize the importance of, like really being respectful. And if somebody says something and you don't agree, at least to give them opportunity to talk it over or to think about, But sometimes I have a habit of, well, I don't agree with you, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm just going to do what I want. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that because it's really sort of hitting home with me that it's something that I need to work on. And, and I'm sure others do too.
Lynn, let me share something with you because with the clients that we work with, it happens all the time. I mean, especially if you've been married 40 years, okay? You pretty much can predict your husband. You know your husband very well. You know his ups, downs, twists, turns, inside out. You know everything, right? Okay. So with that comes this, idea that well, he's been, we've been together 40 years. Okay. So he knows me. I know him. I'm not always going to listen to him. Sometimes I'll listen to him. Sometimes. Okay. So with that comes the ripple effect of what happened with your daughter. So then your heart, you gave her your heart and you said, okay, we'll help you. Now you went against your husband. So now you have this definite conflict because he said one thing, you did another, right? So we tell clients all the time, or we share with clients all the time, that it is so important. I loved what you said, Lynn, that you're learning from this because this is so true. Just because you've been married 30, 40, 50 years, you have to still come together as a team when you present yourself to the children or grandchildren or even out into the world. My husband and I, Marty and I, do a talk, and we did it in various marriage retreats, and we're doing a part 2 in Texas, in Dallas, Texas, in September. And it has to do with this idea of the marital bubble, right? You're in a bubble. And you guys need to stay together with that kind of one mind, one disposition, one outlook, because otherwise, outside people, which includes our children, our grandchildren, they are going to try to get into that bubble and change the dynamics of how the two of you relate. And so that's always, it usually is always, it's a problem. Let me just tell you, because it's usually different from what one parent wants to do. And so you see what I'm saying on this. So it's even though you've been married a long time, it's important to come together and say, okay, are we in agreement? We're not going to help our daughter. Are we in agreement? Okay, help each other stay strong on this. And if one falls and says, okay, she really got to my heart, I had to do it. Okay, well then you pick up and you go from there. But at least you're together. What do you say, Lynn?
I say, yes, I agree. And and I think the importance of the communication, and I think that's where, even after 40 years, I think we still struggle with this because sometimes I don't always communicate what I want. I kind of hold back, but I think that's something that We need to learn. We all need to.
Yeah. Yeah, but you've been married a long time, and that's the thing is that some people feel, well, if I've been married this long, we don't really need to do much more. But we're constantly always, called, because we're changing. We're learning, we're growing, we're changing, we're getting older, we're getting more mature, we're getting more spiritually advanced, hopefully. And so there's a need to constantly improve on everything, even for these long-term, beautiful relationships like yours. So I think it's awesome, Lynn. This is the beginning of a new improved you, right?
I hope so. But thank you.
You'll be in our prayers, Lynn. Thank you for being part of this conversation today. On Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, it's EWTN Radio, a Friday before Memorial Day weekend. We got a taped show we're going to tell you about a little bit later on for Monday, and we hope that you have some beautiful plans to be with those you love on this Memorial Day weekend, maybe a little bit extra rest, maybe a little extra sleep. But we're talking today about, is it okay to fight within a marriage, and if so, how do you approach that? How do you resolve that? How do you move beyond that? Are you stronger because of it? Do you have ground rules set up so that everything remains kind of unheated and objective? 833-288-3986. We've got Joseph and Cecil and Michael McCall is screening calls today, and he has got some other folks he's dealing with right now on the phones, but there is room for you. 833-288-3986.
The Children's Rosary is a simple and deeply moving prayer experience where children pray and learn more about the joyful, luminous, sorrowful, and glorious mysteries of the Rosary. Visit EWTN.com/kids for more.
The most original Catholic content is on EWTN Radio.
This is Debbie Cowden. This week on The Catholic Sphere, Kristalina Everett, Lisa Cotter, and Chris Stefanik join me to discuss the virtue of chastity in today's world, how technology is impacting relationships, and how to cultivate chastity in your home.
The Catholic Sphere, Sunday afternoon, 2:30 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
This is Life Issues with Brad Mattis, president of Life Issues Institute.
Federal courts delivered an important victory for both pro-life and religious freedoms in, of all places, California. The state government mandated abortion coverage in the insurance plans of churches. 4 churches stood up to this bureaucratic overreach, forcing them to be complicit in killing innocent preborn children, and they won. It was also revealed the California Department of Managed Health Care issued this insurance mandate at the demand of Planned Parenthood, which benefits financially from abortion. It would have been much smarter for the bureaucrats not to be pushed around by this abortion giant. When the churches prevailed in court, the losing party had to pay attorney's fees for the other side. In this case, it was $1.4 million. Hooray for the good guys.
Follow us on Twitter at Life Issues USA and stay informed, more informed than you've ever been.
Hi, this is Janet Williams. There's nothing like Women of Grace to explain the truth of our faith, Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern, here on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Great participation so far in today's show. As Debbie says, don't get started with your long extra day Memorial Day weekend just yet. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, presenting you a topic today about arguing, fighting, disagreeing, disputing within a marriage. Is it okay? Well, it probably has to be okay in a certain sense because it's going to happen. But how do you deal with that? How do you just remain calm and objective? And we just love to hear if you've really come through some real Donnybrooks and you're just so much more in love with your spouse. We would love to hear about that as well at 833-288-3986. As promised, we're going to Joseph, who's in New Jersey, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Joseph. Are you there,
Yes,
Joseph?
how you doing? Yes,
good.
I'm sorry about that. Thanks for taking my call. Happy
Sure.
Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you. You
Yeah,
too.
so thank you. So I'm married a long time, almost 42 years, and I've been really like myself, getting closer to God and falling more and more in love and willing to give up everything for it. And I want to do everything for God and everything. But when it comes to my spouse, I feel like she's an obstacle. In as much as like when I try to tell you need to go to confession, I don't need to go. I want to go with my grandkids, and have a nice Sunday with them to go to Mass. They don't need to go. My granddaughter is like, and so I have this struggle within myself, like I'm doing it alone, you know what I mean? So I want to pray with her. I want to do things with her. And it seems like it's just like one big blocker,
Sure.
So I don't want, I used to argue with her a lot, but now I just say, take it easy, offer it up to God, and just keep praying, So I don't know if I can get some advice about how I can deal with that.
Yeah. We've heard this story before, Joseph. So you're not alone. But let me, if you're open to some ideas, and this may assist you in your relationship with your wife. You said 42 years. That's a long time. That's wonderful. Congratulations. Okay, it sounds like you really had kind of a reversion type, or a real epiphany in your spiritual life, and so now you're diving deep, right? Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so is it safe to say that possibly before this major transformation, you weren't maybe as Christ-like, or as Joseph-like, as Saint Joseph-like, before this transformation in your marriage? Were you a little bit rough around the edges?
That's a great question, and I've always been faithful to the church. I've never missed Mass and all that stuff. But you're right, I probably wasn't the best person 30 years ago.
Okay.
Where we've had arguments in the past, and and probably not the best arguments either.
Right.
And you're right. So I have changed since then. So
okay, and the reason why I know that, Joseph, is because, like I said, I've heard your story many times, and that's what I was just leaning on, is hearing the story very often. So here is I think, a fabulous solution to your situation, and it goes something like this, if you're open to it. I would sit down when you guys have a beautiful time together, maybe this weekend, maybe after dinner when you're well fed and you're enjoying the dinner, and sit down with your spouse and say, honey, here's the deal. Okay, I was this way. I was Joseph before my deep conversion, my deep transformation. And now I'm working to get really close to God, and I feel this need to get to God close. I go as fast and as deep as I possibly can, and I want you with me. And I realize that's probably not the best way to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to live out what I am learning about God, and I'm going to live out and show you what I am loving about God. And hopefully, sweetheart, that will be something that will inspire you to be very close with me on this journey. So when you're ready to join me in prayer, when you're ready to join me at church, when you're ready to read the Bible with me, when you're ready to do it, you let me know when you see an indication in me that that's what you want. So basically, live out your faith, Joseph, with joy, and let it radiate to all around you without hardly even having to say a word. And let them be like a sponge. They're going to want more and more and more. What do you say?
I think that's great, and I'm going to take that advice. I appreciate it. I really do.
Sure. Thank
you. And if I could only add just one thing real quick. Well, Joseph, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, a lot of us have gone through this interior conversion or reversion, falling more and more in love with God. There can be no downside to that. Okay, I like what Debbie said. Kind of just let the Lord work on your wife's heart. Maybe in similar ways that He has on yours. But what you're doing can only bear good fruit as you approach this, like Debbie said, very patiently, very objectively, and in a very calm and loving manner. Because what God is doing in your heart, He definitely, absolutely wants to do in your wife's heart as well. And I'm sure, I just encourage you to imagine, Joseph, the day that hopefully is going to come not too far in the future when you both are having this really awesome relationship with Jesus and the church and all of that. I'm sure you probably thought about that. That can only be just a fantastic thing for you to kind of pray for, and hopefully, God is going to provide that in your lives.
I appreciate that. And, I have to, inside myself, too, I have to come away from being the person, like the sin patrol. Well, that's bad. This is bad. You can't do that. You can't do that. Because that's going to turn people away. So I'm working on that. But at the same time, I know that it's hurtful for their souls too, and I'm trying to, out of love, try to direct them and guide them to what really God wants, and that's a difficult situation too. So all these things I'll work on.
We all want to do that, yeah.
Yeah, but just know this though, Joseph. God knows you want that for your family members. God loves your family members more than you do. So God knows that, and so your prayers are effective. Your prayers are necessary, but you living it out is the most important thing, because that's what's going to draw them in. And with a name like Joseph, I think you should lean on St. Joseph. I think you got this one.
I do. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You bet. We'll be praying for you, Joseph. Thanks for being part of the conversation. 833-288-3986. Debbie, we have more calls to get to, but there was an email, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I might have a couple things to share, but you're definitely in the driver's seat on this program today. And this email comes at take2@EWTN.com from Mary. So we go from Joseph to Mary. That's pretty cool. Mary says, I've been married 39 years. The most important part of a disagreement is to keep it between the two of you. She says, sharing with others to support your view will never help you to resolve as a couple. That sounds like a great piece of advice.
Well, let me share something with you. That's why having a counselor, or going to a counselor, a psychologist, or a coach, a life coach, is phenomenal, because it stays confidential. Okay, when you go to a family member, when you go to a friend, when you go to like a coworker, those people will never see your spouse the same way again. Okay, it's very hard to pull back what you have said. Very hard. So let's say I ran to Jerry and I said, Jerry, and I'm talking about Marty, and I ran to Jerry and I said, Jerry, Marty did this, and this. Okay, Jerry's going to have a hard time looking at Marty the next time. That's what he's going to see in his head, all the negative stuff I told him. So it would be better to get a counselor, get a psychologist, or get a life coach. Tell them if you want to, and work out the issues. But I would refrain from doing that, because it tarnishes their image and reputation to people, and sometimes it's hard. Now, if it's a very serious situation like abuse, well, absolutely, because you probably need to get out of that situation anyway. That's not safe if it's real serious abuse, right? So you have to determine it. But most of the time, it's like, oh, my wife nags me, or my husband lies and does this, and it's the kind of the human nature type stuff that we're spewing to other people, and it's very hurtful to their reputation. What do you say, Jer?
No, that's great advice. Absolutely. I'd never really thought that through the way you put it. But yeah, there's no taking that. You can't undo what you've done when you go down that path. So yeah, very good, Mary. Thanks for pointing that out via the email
Mary.
at take2@EWTN.com. Okay, Vivian is in Alberta, Canada. First-time listener to the program and a first-time caller, both on the same day. Hi, Vivian. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Well,
good.
I guess I'm one. Every time I say good, I remember my grammar and have to correct myself.
Right. Well, we hope you're well. Yeah.
I am.
Good. So what would you like to share?
I started listening to this podcast, or I don't know what to call it, live, I'll call it, on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And so you were talking at first about the Holy Spirit and Pentecost and whatnot, and that's kind of what caught my attention. And then when I phoned in, it mentioned the topic of the day, and I went, oh, wait a minute, that wasn't what I thought. But I certainly could use your help.
Sure.
My husband and I separated over 15 years ago. We didn't divorce. We're both Catholic, and we both practice our faith. But the concern I have is that we are not able to celebrate with our children their significant moments in their lives. Some of them we have, like we were able to do weddings and baptisms, but I thought we'd come to a crossroads or walked over a bridge, whatever the word might be, a few years ago, about 2 years ago, when we were actually able to both be at my son's house when his youngest boy was baptized.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, great, we can finally put that behind us, and we can at least be in the same house together. And it's not my issue, I guess, because I have no problem with him being there. He has a problem with me being there. And so I feel like he is really putting our children in a bad spot, because they have to decide, well, were we going to invite Mom or are we going to invite Dad? Having said that, after that incident, it's not an incident, but occasion, that's the word I'm looking for, and that it went fine, then the following Christmas, a different family member invited us both to their house at Christmas time. And when he came in the door and realized I was there, he dropped his gifts and ran, almost literally. And so I thought, oh no, we're back to square one again. I don't think that it would be healthy for us ever to live in the same home again.
Right.
But I really like to see, for our children's sake, we have 7 children and 23 grandchildren. And for their sake, I would like to see that they don't feel like they're caught in a crossfire. That, Mom and Dad can at least agree on putting our disagreements.
You can be civil at these functions.
Civility, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, may I please comment on a couple things, because you said there's a couple elements here I want to just focus on real quickly. First of all, have you thought about having a meeting with him, not by phone but in person, to structure how you guys can be together? It sounds like when you do meet up with each other, you're meeting with the family members, and that could create an issue. He's obviously uncomfortable. Have you thought about asking him to go out to lunch or go meet at a coffee shop and just sit and try to figure this out for the benefit of the children and grandchildren? That's the first question. Before you answer, Vivian, let me just ask you the other one, because I am getting older by the second and I'll forget it. Have you thought about going to a counselor, asking him if he'll be willing to go to a counselor or a coach, just so you can create a plan that everybody could feel comfortable in front of the children and grandchildren? Or have you explored those two things yet?
No, and yes.
Okay.
I've thought of the first one. The second one, we have gone through, I don't know how many counselors before we separated even.
Okay.
And we could not find one that could bridge the gap between us at that point.
Sure. Okay.
And we were, one of the issues, I was the one who decided to separate.
Right.
And, one of the issues was that we just couldn't find any middle ground. It seemed like we couldn't talk about, like there was a time, I'll give you an example. There was a time where we seemed to be on a pretty good wavelength and comfortable with one another. And so I thought, I'm going to go and meet him at work, and we'll go out for coffee, and, we'll talk about this. And we did that, but we didn't talk about it. I don't know if it was my cowardice or a little of everything, because, when things were, he acted like there was nothing wrong, first of all, when I met him, and he was excited to see me and excited that I came to meet him at work, and we went for coffee, and it was like, oh, I can't even bring this up, because it's just too nice to be in this square and not this square.
Okay, yeah.
And,
I understand.
So I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. No,
and
you did good.
So that was before we were separated, but shortly before we were separated. So as far as asking him to go out for lunch or coffee or with whatever with him, I have been thinking about that lately, but I don't even right now have, when I say I don't have, I sort of have his phone number, but only because of a family situation that we're in the midst of right now.
Right.
And actually by deduction.
Right.
Okay.
But Vivian, let me just share something real quickly. Sometimes, with just the sole purpose of asking him, hey, can you, or do you see us being able to be at these family functions? I don't know what his name is, and you don't have to give me his name, but let's just say his name was Jerry, because I'm using Jerry as an example. If Jerry was your husband's name and you just said, Jerry, do you think it's a possibility that we could show up at Christmases and birthdays and graduations and weddings? Could we show up in front of the kids and grandkids, and just so that they can see us in the same room together, and for the benefit of them, that it makes them feel comfortable, not for us? Do you think it's possible, Jerry, that this could actually happen? Do you ever see us together in the same room at events? If Jerry were to say, no, I don't see that, there's not much you can do, because he has the right not to be there if he doesn't want to, if it's going to make him feel very uncomfortable, or if he's going to do something that could be disrespectful to you, and you don't want that. But if he says, yeah, but I don't know how to get there, well, then there's the door opening to maybe get a third party in to help, navigate and get a plan together. Or you could be ready, Vivian, with a plan and say, okay, Jerry, here's the plan. Okay, we're going to show up together. We're going to be cordial. We're going to say hi to each other. We're going to part ways, and you go to one side of the house, I'll go to the other side of the house. We'll greet the kids and grandkids, and then at the end, we'll say goodbye to each other and we'll leave. Okay, and you keep it very simple. You don't settle any disagreements or situations or issues between the two of you. That's something very different. I'm talking about for the definite purpose of just showing up at these events for your children and your grandchildren. So you see what I'm saying? If you keep it a one topic plan, you can do it. But it's sometimes the problem is when spouses or people that are separated or even divorced, they start to deal with all the other issues, and now you have a mess. So if you can just keep with one focus, what do you say?
I think that I'd be willing to give that an attempt again.
Good.
But I guess the fact that we were able to do that one time, even without me suggesting it, I think a part of the problem is that any suggestion that comes from me seems to be wrong.
Okay, then do this, Vivian. Here's a perfect out for you. You ready? Say that you heard this from a life coach. Blame it on me. Okay? Blame it on me. Say, I just heard this. This is great. It fits us. Could we do it?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, there you go. Keep me posted, and if you want to talk anymore, Vivian, you can always email. I mean, I'm happy to assist in any way I can, because I really think you with this big of a family that you have, it really would be nice for the children and grandchildren if they could have the parents together in the room, even if you're not even speaking, just to have them together, because it's making it difficult for your kids and grandkids. So our email is take2@EWTN.com.
Okay, just a second. Take
two.
Two as in the number or the word?
Either one. They both work. Yeah, take the number 2 or take the word 2, TWO. Yeah.
Okay.
Take2@EWTN.com.
At EWN or just EWTN?
EWTN.com.
EW.
Yeah.
TN. EWTN. Yep. And you were so grateful to you being a first-time caller, first-time listener. We hope you continue to listen and call us again, Vivian. You were awesome.
Well, I will certainly listen again, because I think, I've been sort of at a situation in my own life where we've done the counselor route. We've done, I've never had a, what did you call yourself?
Life coaches. We're certified life coaches.
Mm-hmm. Had a life coach. Mm-hmm. And we never have found, I think a life coach is a great idea. If you can recommend any life coaches closer to home. Yeah. Or if I can just email you, that's fine too. So yeah, I want to make sure I have this email address right, though.
Sure.
It's take2EWTN.com. I'm missing something.
Take2@EWTN.com. Yeah, and just a quick word for you and also for anybody else who emails us. Our producer, Ace McKay, is really on top of it. He likes to get back to people right away. That doesn't mean you won't hear from me and Debbie. It's just that we have a lot of email and a lot of things going on. So your first response might be either an auto response or something from Ace, but if you email Vivian with this issue, Debbie will absolutely see it and she'll get back to you. So just wanted to let people know, be a little bit patient because we hear from a lot of people.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Vivian. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. And we did hear from 2 counselors. They're married to each other. That's interesting. I would love to hear the techniques that you guys use. You couldn't stay on the line, but if you could email us as well, take2@ewtn.com, and share with us some of the counseling techniques that you use in your home. That would totally help us. Plus, Ace McKay was sharing some of the tools and tips that he uses in his beautiful marriage, and I think, and Jeff Burson as well, and everybody's weighing in. I think it's wonderful that we're sharing this. Marty and I, we're practicing this. I can't say that we're perfect at it yet. But, you know this, Jerry. You know where I'm going with this. Marty is big on you cannot react. You have to respond. You cannot react. You have to respond. I've heard it so many times. It's unbelievable. And so we're practicing that on responding, not reacting.
Great, yeah. Couple things I want to get to here before we get ready to conclude the show in a couple minutes. First of all, we have another show on EWTN radio called Vatican Insider, and the person on that show is Joan Lewis. Joan has lived in Rome near the Vatican for many, many years. She's got contacts and always great information. So tune in for Vatican Insider with Joan Lewis, direct from the Eternal City, as Joan speaks with Vatican officials and visitors about events affecting the church and the world. That's Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9:30 p.m. on EWTN radio. And we always love to give a shout out to our affiliates, and we want to send congratulations today to another member of the EWTN radio family. It's KOFR FM 107.1 in Lander, Wyoming. They are celebrating, Debbie, their 8th year with us, so congratulations to everyone at the Church of the Holy Rosary in Lander, Wyoming, from your friends here at EWTN.
Nice. Very cool. Okay, so what a great way to end this beautiful episode with Michael McCall, our call screener for today. He sent this message in, and Michael, I think it's perfect. He said, just remember that the person you're fighting with is the person you chose to spend your life with, that you love the most. Winning a fight is not important if it hurts your partner. Well said, Michael. Right,
Yeah.
Jerry?
Yeah, and the video stream, of course, on Facebook and YouTube. Hello to you, folks. Watching on Facebook was Laura today, Debbie, and she says, when I worked for the church doing marriage preparation with couples preparing for marriage, one of the areas was dealing with conflicts or differences. And Laura says, through this process, it becomes very evident that big issues left unresolved in a marriage will always, in capital letters, always be a source of conflict and will affect the marriage. Better to get them worked out as soon as possible.
Oh, yes, Laura. Thank you for that. Wow, that was powerful. Jerry, this was a really, really good edition of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And now we can wish our wonderful Take Two family a beautiful Memorial Day weekend, right?
Indeed. We have a tape show, a pre-recorded show for you on Monday with Father Carney. It's going to be about St. Francis de Sales, so we hope that you will tune in for that and be a part of that show. It's Father Carney. We're talking about St. Francis de Sales. He's a favorite of a lot of people here. And other shows coming up next week. We have your Best Clean Joke show on Tuesday. Unscripted is on Wednesday. Thursday is our first prayer show of the month, Whom or What Are You Praying For? And Friday, The True Presence. So, Debbie, that is a great lineup coming up next week.
Oh, I can't wait. Very exciting. And don't forget to like us on Facebook, Jerry and Debbie Facebook page. We're going to be posting about the Covenant Creation Stand Tall pilgrimage coming up in September. We'll give you more details on that. And if you want a free consultation, go to standtalltoday.com. That's our life coaching ministry, standtalltoday.com. Jerry?
As always, thanks to Ace McKay, our producer. We had Michael McCall screening calls today and Jeff Burson on social media. Thank you, affiliates, for carrying the program. Most of all, thank you, Take Two family. We love you all. Keep us in your prayers. You are always in ours. Have a beautiful and blessed Memorial Day weekend. And until we talk to you again live on Tuesday, may you be blessed. And St. Joseph, please pray for us. Amen.
Here's today's quote from Mother Angelica's Perpetual Calendar.